So I thought it would help our ongoing exploration in this classroom to show what it looked like from where I stood.
What's the deal with these pictures I'm taking here? I'm really trying to develop some kind of curriculum about attention in general and about attention in the classroom specifically. And so a little shot of what it looks like from where I stand. Notice this guy was looking at my video on YouTube while I was showing it on the screen, then switched to my private website, and then you'll notice the last thing as the camera pulls away is that he switches to doing his email. The interesting thing about it is that that is an A-plus student, one of the best students I've had. So I began thinking, I know that some of these students don't know what they're doing. In fact, every year it comes out when I broach the subject, and about half of them immediately admit that multitasking in the classroom means spending less attention on the teacher or the other students. But some of them know what they're doing. So I began to think, maybe it's not that multitasking is bad and focused attention is good. Maybe we simply haven't learned how to exercise our attention. So this literacy is something that I began probing with my students. The first thing I do in my class now is to ask the students to turn their phones off, shut their laptops, and close their eyes. And I tell them I'm going to let them know when 60 seconds have gone by, and just do nothing but notice what happens in your mind. And of course, anybody who meditates knows that your mind is pretty much out of control. Your attention will go anywhere. It will go to yesterday. It will go to tomorrow. It will free associate without any kind of real volition on your part. I simply wanted to kind of start from the zero state and then build up the seductive distractions from there. And since then, exercised a number of probes. So one of the things that I do with my classes is that I have student teaching teams. I'll talk about that a little bit more, who co-teach the class with me. So those three students can keep their laptops open and make some kind of skeletal notes on the wiki, and the rest of the students can fill that wiki in after class. A lot of students object that they can't learn unless they can take notes. And I think it is true that taking notes is an important way to learn, but I don't think it's the only way. And I stressed from the beginning that what this is about is just beginning to develop some mindfulness about where they put their attention. So focused attention, it's very important. It's like a floodlight. It's like a high beam light. And you without that kind of very focused light, you can't, for example, do surgery. But sometimes you just want to turn the room lights on. There are many circumstances in which we have to multitask our attention. You've got to keep your eye on the baby crawling on the floor towards the electrical outlet. The phone is ringing. The kettle is boiling. If we weren't able to multitask, I don't think we would be able to drive automobiles. So clearly we have different forms of attention that are appropriate for different ways of doing things. One of the other probes I use is for a class of 40 students to tell them that 5 of you can keep your laptops open at any time. When the 6th one opens, you've all got to close them for the rest of the class, and it's up to you to figure out how that works, which it's really all just about making them pay a little bit of attention to what they're doing, and that really did wake them up a lot. So I got very excited about this idea of critical thinking, and went to my daughter's school and learned that phrase and that idea, critical thinking, is widely known as a plot to induce children to challenge authority. And therefore, it's very difficult to get it past the school board. In fact, that is accurate. And that is, I think, part of the problem we have to face. I'm not sure that schools are the place where education of this kind is going to happen. The divergence of schooling and education, of course, is not a new idea. It goes back at least to Ivan Illich and Deschooling Society, but he was writing long before we had these other issues to deal with. Schools are going to remain places where we park our kids while we go to work, and where they learn to be good 19th and 20th century industrial civilization workers. Unfortunately, we're in the 21st century. I think a lot of the learning is taking place outside of school, when the teacher isn't looking, in the SMS messages, the blogs, the young kids don't Twitter that much, the game playing that they're doing. I'm not so sure that that kind of informal peer-to-peer education about literacies is going to take us very far. They're very, very good at learning any kind of online application, any kind of software without reading the manual, by just clicking around. That doesn't mean that they understand how to advocate, how to organize, whether they know the rhetoric. But I do think we have an opportunity to take advantage of the natural enthusiasm that a great many young people, and I don't want to generalize about the entire generation, I'm going to talk about that, but a great many people, young people, obviously have a lot of enthusiasm, or Rupert Murdoch wouldn't have spent, what was it, $750 million on MySpace. We probably wouldn't have YouTube if it wasn't for 16-year-olds. And I don't think that any of them are doing that because their parents or their teachers told them it was an educational thing to do. They're doing it because expressing yourself and connecting with your peers is something that you want to do when you are a teenager. And never before have we had ways to connect with our peers that our teachers and our parents couldn't spy on. Never before have we had ways to express ourselves that the entire world could see. So participation is a much larger literacy. Of course, we are all steeped in it, and we're not the only ones. We've got 1 billion people on the internet. We've got, over 4 billion mobile phones. I think about 100 million of those and counting are cameras. We're seeing the results of that all the time. How many excruciatingly boring blogs and Twitter accounts attest to the fact that just participating isn't enough, that there is something to be learned about participating in a way that's valuable to others as well as yourself. I do think, I agree with Yochai Benkler and Henry Jenkins and others, that participating, even if it's no good and nobody cares, gives you a different sense of being in the world, of being an active citizen rather than simply a passive consumer of what is sold to you, taught to you, what your government wants you to believe. So just participating, I think, is a great thing, but I think it's just a start.
Lovely stuff, thank you.
So the technologies that we all have today, the technologies that kids have in their pockets today are literally millions of times more powerful than what the Defense Departments had not too many years ago. But I think that there's a direct line from those BBSs with the 1200 baud modems that I first connected with in the 1980s, and the broadband multimedia participation we're seeing today. And we really are seeing a massive adoption of an attitude of active participation through simply the use of the technologies.